school with different bruises. We don't want to jump to any conclusions. Sometimes a bruise can be, especially bruises on the shins. I know little boys often have a lot of bruises on their shins and their arms because they climb on the monkey bars. Little girls also, they fall. And they can be bruised their entire childhood just because they're normal kids. I had a client once who showed up with she said, my mother hurt me and she had a bruise on her hip. But it was an accident. Her mother said, put on your jacket, we're late. And she threw the jacket toward the kid. The jacket had a zipper, and it gave the kid a little tiny, tiny red mark on her hip. It was something where I needed to talk to the mother and say it's not really a great thing to happen and maybe you need some parenting help, but it's not physical abuse. So don't jump to conclusions when you see a bruise, even though it's easy to. Some bruises that you have to investigate but don't assume. So you want to say, what was that about? Black eyes could be abuse, and kids who have an imprint that has the shape of a hand on their face, they come to school with a hand mark on their face, like finger marks, bites. Sometimes abusers are smart and they know that these days we're very educated in our schools and we're looking for bruises, so they'll pull here. So what you want to look for is bald spots. Kids who have bald spots on their heads because their hair has been pulled out. Another thing that may be an indicator of physical abuse is when the kid says, don't call my parents. I had a client like that where he would get a bad mark on a test and say, please don't call my parents, don't call my parents. And the question to ask is, what would happen if I did call your parents? And then he said, well, my dad would beat me up with his belt. So when a child is really terrified of you calling their parents, that's another thing you should look at.